Welcome back, everybody. Debbie and Dan here with Action-Based Leaders. And today we are going through chapter 6 of If Your Team Sucks, Find Out Why. And this is all about developing leadership skills, which is super cool. Debbie, welcome back. I can't wait to dive into this one because this all of a sudden starts blowing open the door to kind of leadership and where it's going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting because I just have to go there for a minute, Dan, because you and I both live in this world a lot, right? With organizations that have like these operational systems. Let's just leave it at that. Anybody that knows what they are, they know what they are, these operating systems. And while valuable, right? You have to have this, where are we going, tracking piece, what's happening, right? There's some elements of accountability in there that are very, very, very important. What we're seeing is we're inside of these companies is that leadership development piece is missing because they're so focused on that operational system. They're missing what I call, and it's not just soft skills, people skills. You're missing that people side in developing. You're developing something and you're leading something, but is it the leaders that you really want that are inspirational about opportunity, possibility, all of that stuff? And that's what this chapter 6 talks about, is developing that level of a leader.
I think that's what's really cool about it is, and we've seen a lot of companies struggle with it, and I've been through it too, is that change management side of it. It is like really the people that are there. And yes, you can say whether they're in or they're out based on what you want, but ultimately you can't let everybody go. There's going to be some development, and everybody's got to grow together.
Absolutely. They have to grow together. And it's interesting to be working with teams because I tell you, I love working with organizations regardless of where that might be. Ideally, top down is always absolutely amazing and exponentially the change that you're going to see. It's not where we have to start, right? We can work with subgroups inside of organizations. We can work with one team inside of an organization, whatever that is. But when you don't have the congruency of what you're teaching this level, receiving it from the top down, it's just a little bit different nuance that you have to go through. So honestly, through leadership development, you have to teach manage up to concept to be able to have awareness around that, which chapter 6 talks about that awareness piece. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and I think that's kind of the interesting point about it, right? If everybody's then expected to manage up, what about the leaders in their own expectations of themselves, right? Because that's ultimately where, at least if the leader's aware of what's going on, they need to start making that change.
Yeah. Yeah, but let's go into the conversation. What is awareness?
Yeah. That's
see, it leaves you speechless. What is awareness? Right?
Because if without it, you're clueless. And I think it's one of the hardest pieces. The only way that I've seen it really, I guess, captured well is you can't see the picture when you're in the frame itself.
That's it. Here's the thing about awareness that is so powerful. We say a couple things all the time around here. One, awareness cannot be taught. It can only be experienced. If I could be a multi-billionaire 50,000 times over, if I could send you a bottle of little red pills, and when you took the pill, boom, you had instant awareness. There is no way to do that. Awareness has to be experienced. And what's so powerful about it, think about your life 5 years ago. Okay. Where were you 5 years ago in comparison to where you are now, in the choices that you're making, the way you look at life and the way you see things? Ideally, right, we're wanting people to grow and look back 5 years. Sometimes that doesn't always happen, but ideally, right, you want to look back and go, whoa, look how far I've come. And you don't even realize that you did it. That's awareness, right? So the other piece of awareness is your power. Awareness is your power to choose differently. So if you don't have awareness, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that there's another choice to be made. So it's one of those kinds of things.
I think that's what's cool about it is once the awareness is triggered, though,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it changes everything. If they choose to act on any of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to, right?
Right.
And it's one of those very powerful things, but yet it's also the base root of everything that we do as action-based leaders, right? To be a elite action-based leader, meaning, and when I say elite, someone that just is totally so bought in from a value standpoint that this is the way I live my life, right? I'm accountable to you for your success. So when I'm living life from that perspective first, I am counting on myself to be so true to that value that I cannot ask for something that I am not living, doing, duplicating, replicating, whatever,
Right.
showing as an example out of my life. It oozes all over you when you live from that level of awareness. So therefore, for those that are around, if you're seeing something that's off, you're able to go, what am I leading to be getting this? Does that make sense?
It does. And I think that's the hard part about leading is actually choosing the direction in kind of what you're going to be doing.
Yeah. And I mean, the reality is, listen, we can't control other people's choices, right? We absolutely can't control if somebody does something, they have a bad day, bad attitude, all of that kind of stuff. We're not talking about situational. We're talking about chronic, right? We're talking about patterns that keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And there's a big difference there. Situational, life happens. Good grief. We have good days, bad days, up, down. We can't control if someone decides not to or quit, they don't come into their, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But we work with leaders that are chronically seeing the same thing show up inside of their team, right? Accountability is off, conflict is just really struggling in those areas, not having the conversations that we need to have, running out of time and not getting stuff done and not being, and that just keeps going and going. That's the type of teams we love working with and really helping them get solutions because they're there. But it all comes
Right.
from
Well,
awareness.
and that's what, and I know those are actually slated for the next four. We're actually going to go through
Yep.
those four different pieces, conflict, communication, time management, and
I'll just
conflict.
be real blunt. We're going to go through it a little bit differently than if your team sucks, find out why. Because bottom line is some people really struggle with that title. My team don't suck. What do you mean? They don't like the word or it feels a little too harsh, which is totally fine. It makes me smile. It's like, okay, so if your team struggles with accountability, if your team struggles with conflict, right?
Yeah.
Communication. So it'll be fun. Yeah, we'll talk more about it.
All right. But so in this chapter, there's the one quote from Lao Tzu. I want you to take me through it because that one kind of just, it made me stop and pause and sit there and really start reflecting and thinking about how this works.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Lao Tzu dates back how far? How many thousands of years ago?
Thousands of years.
Yeah. So that's why when I read this for the very first time, it stopped me. A leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they say, we did it ourselves.
All right. Break that down for me because the more I read it, the deeper it goes.
And it will continue because your awareness is now peaked, right? A lot of times leaders take on, look what we did as a team, which is, again, fine. I'm not going to talk about being uber, crazy out there about it, but, oh, look what we did. And I led this, and they take the accolades and the credit for that. What I want to invite you to do, and you meaning the general you as leaders, when you're really debating this is, first of all, imagine standing with your arms out around your team. And without a word, you can inspire your team so deeply from the inside out because of the power of your leadership. They ask for what they need. They're accountable. They're communicating. Everybody's navigating through their differences because you want to have healthy conflict, right? You want to have all of that stuff going on. And you're literally holding the space, leading them and observing them into their success. And without a word, they're able to say, look what we did. To me,
I
that
know,
is
I
the
know
highest
that,
level of leadership. Go ahead.
yeah, but I know there's a ton of people out there that's, calling BS, right? They're hammering the BS button saying, yeah, right. If I'm not there, nothing gets done.
Mm. So where else does that show up in your life? Where else does that show up in your life? And I think it's very fair that, and again, that's the beginning steps of awareness, right? And I'm not being uber woo woo and way out there and say the team can't function without you, but what in that can your team not do and why? That's where you need to go, right? Why aren't they empowered to be able to do it? And why can't they? What do they need to be learning from you that you're not giving them?
So if this sparked any any piece of awareness for people, like how do they then start developing those skills? Like how do they become more aware of what's going on and start living into that piece as a leader, where it's almost whether they're detached or they're not taking all the credit, right? So to live that quote, what
Yeah,
would
the
that look like?
couple different, I mean, naturally it's easy to say, hey, get you a coach wherever that is, get somebody in your life that can help hold you accountable, but first and foremost actually give you really sincere true feedback first of all, and be willing to hear the feedback, take the feedback in, whoever that might be, right? Could be a mentor in your life, could even be somebody on your team. Ideally, it'd be great if it was your leader being able to give that to you. But say you're the CEO, the one leading, get
Yep.
solid feedback, right? Find out how you are viewed and perceived by others. I think that's very, very, very important. Two questions I have my clients go ask is, what about my leadership can you tell me that I'm not aware of? And hold the silence and listen to what people have to say, and ask that in a 360. So ask that of those that actually love you the most too, not just peers, not just those that work for you. Ask it all the way around.
Yep.
The other piece is truly asking, what is most challenging for you when working with me? And hold the silence and let them answer. Here is your kicker. You ready for this one? This is under the covers. If they go,
What do you got?
oh, everything's fine, it's
Uh,
great, that is your trigger that they are not fully able to give solid feedback.
Now it's interesting because that's probably the most common answer.
Yep, it is.
And it's just because people are either afraid to give that, they haven't fostered that environment where they
Mhm.
can speak straight and really provide healthy conflict to say, hey, this is what's coming up for me and where I need help or what I need more from you or where you're
Yep.
falling short.
Yep. And say you are a great leader and they still say, "Oh, it's fine. Everything's good. It's fine." The reason why I say that's where you start is it's not, is it really necessarily you? Are you creating an environment where you are inspiring people to be able to ask for what they need, be able to give good, strong, solid feedback? We don't know their past. We don't know what they're coming from. We don't know where they've been shut down, right? So everybody has their stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody has their stuff. What the leaders that we work with are leaders that are growing high effective teams that are able to be very functional, and here I go with my mouth, get shit done and have fun doing it. Period. If we're working and awake and spending a lot of our time working, we should be having fun and being fulfilled and doing what we do, in all
Well, I think
honesty.
that's key, right? I mean, the getting shit done, that's what everybody wants. Every leader,
Yep.
every boss, every manager wants their people to get shit done. And ultimately, when you get the feedback of saying, "Hey, I don't have the time, I don't have the capacity, I don't have the right resources," they're
Yep.
all excuses around why they're not getting things done.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why developing leadership skills is so important. It's key. And it's key in creating this evolvement of awareness on a team and moving forward if you're truly trying to build a team that's making a difference in whatever realm or sector of that piece that you're working on and doing in your organization.
Now, I've seen one other way to bring awareness to an organization, and that's through assessments. Now,
Yeah.
I know just because we've done so many,
Yeah.
and I know you have one.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yep. We do plenty of assessments, right? We have a whole sector of assessments depending on what that team is trying to develop and do. What I want, and the idea that I had, and Dan, this came as you and I've been talking, and one of the assessments that we offer, yes, it's a behavioral assessment. So I call it a 4-quad mod. A lot of behavioral assessments are based out of, a dominance, influencing, steady, and compliance piece, right? DISC,
Yes.
but there's tons out there. So that's one that we do, one of many. But we also pair that with another one that I absolutely love when they're paired together, and it's called driving forces. So DISC or behavioral assessments, that's what you see on the outside. So think of this iceberg. That's what you see. How big is that iceberg underneath the water?
Like 80%.
Huge. Yes. Yeah. That's where driving forces is. It's everything under the water. What is driving that force? So it's going to make actually that behavioral style show up different. So we measure, there's 12 actually that we look at because they're continuums. But when someone fully understands as a leader how they show up and why they show up, it's a game changer. It's a game changer because you can become aware of your triggers. Why are you aware of your triggers? Because all of a sudden it normalizes your strengths and weaknesses so you can get that ego calmed down, get that energy calmed down, because guess what? You cannot be all things to all people and you cannot do it all. Just realize it. Yep. Thus why you're building a team. And then am I building a team of minions, or am I building a team that is everything that I'm not so that we can all work together?
Which is what you would want, right?
Absolutely. That's what you want. We're able to plot all of that, plot everybody on the team. I would tend to say this and you know what? I actually want to offer this assessment. If anybody wants to take it, I'm willing to offer it as free, right? They just have to contact us. I don't know how all that stuff works, Dan. You just have to put that out.
So we actually have that set up, right? And
okay.
It's super simple, right? If you go to ifyourteamsucks.com/free assessment.
Okay. There you go. Put that link in there too somewhere. Can't you put that link
we'll
somewhere?
Drop the link in the description so you can go take the assessment. And so what do they get then with that?
All I ask is when they get the assessment is just let me debrief it with you. Allow 45 minutes after you take the assessment. Let me know. Well, it's going to come to my desk that it's done, because you do have to put in your email, whatever email you want to put on. I mean, ideally put in your one that's going to at least not go to spam or whatever, but yes, you do have to put in your email, but have that 45-minute debrief, and I'll debrief you myself. Please do the debrief. Don't take the assessment if you're not willing to have the debrief, because that right there, just deal with that trigger. That's your
work
first
on that
trigger.
Yourself.
Work on that one first, because the awareness piece that I want you to gain is put yourself out there. What's that visibility piece of feedback that would block me from doing this? It's not costing you anything except time. And I would ask you to exchange that time to be the beginning of opening up a new level of awareness to literally shift you as a leader. That's all I ask. Not a hard ask.
Love it. But that's the evolution, right? We either grow or die based on what we do or don't do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in that debrief, we'll hit the high points, right? You'll hit what's going on, and there'll be the opportunity, right? After that debrief, do you want to learn more or know more? That's just part of it and how we do it and work. But it can also be something that you take, and not only does it change you professionally. How many times, Dan, have you heard me say, this is about changing you personally? And when you change personally, you're going to be able to sit back and watch your team say, this is what we did, or this is what I did. This is how we did it. And be totally, totally at peace without having to say a word, because you just know.
Right. Love it. And I think that's so true, right? Personal development leads to professional development. And in order for things to change, you have to change. So go to ifyourteamsucks.com/free assessment, grab the assessment, do the debrief with Debbie, and start that journey on awareness in your leadership and being able to grow your team so that it can be a collective piece in growth. So ifyourteamsucks.com/free assessment, and we'll see you in the next episode.